Felicity, thank you for winding up our debate so well. And the debate really has been very striking, characterised by people speaking with knowledge, with passion, with poise, and with fluency. And I think that you will find that the serious media will treat you with great respect, because what you've done has been frankly fantastic. It's been a great start. We now move on because it's time for the Youth Parliament to consider the second motion of the day relating to university tuition fees as printed on the order paper. To move the motion, please give him a warm welcome. I call Mr. James Bartle.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the motion. Mr. Speaker, as members will be aware, a few weeks ago, Lord Browne published his report into the future of higher education in this country. Lord Browne proposed lifting the cap on university tuition fees, paving the way for a rise in fees to an average of £6,000. Mr. Speaker, this rise in fees is absolutely necessary if we are to maintain high standards in our education system. The reality is that at the moment we are reaching a crisis point in university funding. Many universities are starved of cash, and with budget cuts of some £2.9 billion to university budgets, there is a massive gap to fill. Dr. Wendy Piatt, the Director General of the Russell Group, which represents 20 of the UK's top universities, said, "We desperately need more money if we are to give students the education they deserve." Mr. Speaker, there is a real risk that standards in universities will fall if investment is not sustained. But of course, Mr. Speaker, quality is not the only factor we should consider. Fairness should be at the heart of our university fee system. We must all remember that students do not pay a penny towards their university education. You don't pay a penny until you leave. Nobody will pay for their education until they've left university, they've started working, and they are earning over £21,000 a year. If their wages go down, so will their payments. If they stop working, then their payments will stop as well. Mr. Speaker, that is fair. Because in the end, the person that benefits most from having a degree is the student. If you have a degree, you can get better paid jobs, which would be significantly harder if you didn't have a degree. It's estimated that over the course of their career, a graduate earns on average 23.5% more than somebody who doesn't have a degree. So why should the taxpayer have to pay for the privilege of that young person having that extra money? Now, turning to the issue of debt, people are rightly worried about the level of debt they get into at university. But they should think about the amount they would add to the levels of national debt in this country if the taxpayer had to plug the gap in university funding. The level of debt we get into at university is minuscule compared to the £952 billion of debt which our generation has been saddled with because of the economic mismanagement of the previous government. Well, I'm sorry, my fellow MEPs, it is true. And that is a record that the previous government should be ashamed of, and a record for which, Mr. Speaker, I hasten to add, they are yet to apologise. Now, Mr. Speaker, again, my fellow MEPs, it is true. Now, Mr. Speaker, in this debate, we have a clear choice. We can vote for brilliant universities, which are funded through a fair contribution from graduates, or we can say no. Students don't have to pay any more, but we will then have to accept that we will have third-rate universities which give students degrees of little value. I know the choice I would make, Mr. Speaker. I hope the House will share in my view, and I commend this motion to the House.
Thank you for that very robust opening speech. To oppose the motion, I shall in a moment call Mr. Conor Morgan, and I know you'll give him a warm welcome. And I just inform members of the Youth Parliament that Conor will say some words in Irish Gaelic, and he will then, for all of our benefit, repeat the meaning in English. Mr. Conor Morgan.
Gora Meogat, Mr. Speaker. Balqualcha is more an inner dom, a bay and an shusser. Sulla gucker to August, to Ug Shula Agilaga, Bawaitlium Buchas, Gabal Lat Asan Jasha. Now, for those of you who aren't 100% fluent in Irish, I apologise. Loosely translated, that was, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Fellow members, it is a great honour to stand here before you and to have the opportunity to address you in Irish, and I would like to thank all of you for the opportunity and the respect that you've shown me. £70,000, the amount of debt that a prospective medical student will face. £32,000, the amount of debt that the average student will face should the cap on tuition fees be lifted, as was indicated in the spending review. Let me put this into perspective for you now. The average wage in the UK each year is £25,543. Now let me ask you something. Is it fair that in raising the cap on tuition fees, education will become a privilege only for those who can afford it? Is it just that the current members of Parliament, many of whom had a university education paid for by the state, now expect us, the innocent and disenfranchised in this economic mess, to pay for the mistakes that they have made? Is it right that, considering we as young people are constantly being told that we are the future, our future appears to us to be a burden of debt and uncertain job prospects? We are the representatives of young people. We believe education is a right everyone should be entitled to. We do not believe that wealth or class should play a factor in this, and we most certainly do not believe that we should be expected to begin our lives trapped beneath a crushing burden of debt of up to £70,000. In fact, this view is also held by 95% of young people, all of whom oppose lifting the cap on tuition fees. We do not feel that the young people whom these proposals will affect have been adequately consulted, and that those in power have chosen not only to maintain a price on education, and thus choosing for our lives to begin in enormous debt, but they are choosing to worsen an already entirely unjust set of circumstances. What kind of society do we live in when 1 in 3 young people will choose their university based on how much it will cost them? What kind of education system allows the poor to be left behind? What kind of decision makers not only disregard the views of young people, but also make rash decisions that will negatively affect the lives of many? We must stand up, we must be heard, and we must send a clear message to decision makers that we matter and that our education must never be compromised. Thank you.
Thank you and congratulations. Can I just issue one appeal? I'll try not to make the mistake myself, but the appeal is, if you've already spoken, please don't stand at this stage, because obviously there are lots of people who haven't had a chance to speak yet, and I'd like to give them that opportunity. Perhaps we can have the young woman here. Yes, you. Another time, perhaps. No disrespect, but no, this young woman here.
What sort of... I'm Alex Slipper from the East Midlands. What sort of society do we live in where, to get a job of any worth, you have to have gone to university? A degree has now become the new A-level. We should be able to leave school and then go get training or get apprenticeships and go do that. But now we've got to go and get into this £30,000 of debt to get a job that's not as good as we would have got 30 years ago. It's not right.
Who have we got from the northeast of England? Northeast, yeah, young man here.
Thank you. Thomas Robinson from Middlesbrough in the northeast. Young people in the Middlesbrough constituency find the Brown Report's suggestions worrying. In Middlesbrough, we have the magnificent Teesside University, which was recently named University of the Year. But 16 out of 23 wards in Middlesbrough are socially deprived. So it's obvious that our young people do find it hard to pay to go to university, even when they're academically able. We believe a rise in tuition fees would make our higher education system elitist, where the rich can afford to go and the poor cannot. And we urge the coalition government not to make such a devastating decision, which will no doubt exclude so many young people from achieving their true potential. Thank you.
Someone from London. Yeah, young woman here.
Lauren Spooner from Havering. I should be going to university next year, as I expect quite a few of you are. How am I meant to pay my tuition fees? True, I'll be paying them when I leave, but also, how am I going to live and have a social life when I fall into I will get nothing. I will get the lowest amount that the government can possibly give me. Also, how many times do you hear my learned friend, my learned colleague? They're only learned because they go to university. How many of the MPs haven't been to university? They practically all have. And they are trying to take that away from our generation, away from us. Is that really fair?
Thank you. What about somebody from the West Midlands who hasn't spoken before? What about the young man here? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Tom Hewlin and I am from Birmingham. If the red brick universities are allowed to up their tuition fees to £10,000 a year, a young medical student will leave university with a debt of up to £50,000. Working class students that want to do medicine, like from my constituency, may be put off from going to university and following their dream. This may make universities an institution for the rich and not an institution for the talented.
Do we have somebody from Wales? Who have we got from Wales? Two people standing from Wales. Yeah, the young woman here.
I'm Paige Sherrington from Caerphilly Youth Forum, and how many of you go to university? How many of you agree to this issue? Well, same as most of you lot, I disagree, because some families may be able to afford the tuition fees, some may not, as they might have more bigger families. But people with bigger families, would you stop your children from going to university if they're smart enough to enter, or would you stop them from having more children? From my point of view, I would say to stop the tuition fees getting higher, as some people might not be able to afford them, as some may, but to the people who can't, then you should think of them more than the people who can.
Thank you. What about the South East? Who have we got from the South East? What about the young gentleman here? Yes.
Leon Mann from Buckinghamshire. Right. May I point out that the government has promised that should university tuition fees rise, there will be enough money, be it from student loans or more scholarships, bursaries, to cover the costs. Now, I actually think that the government's rise in the loans repayment threshold actually puts them in a disadvantaged position, because they have to lend out more money and they might not get it back. 40% cuts in the university budget over 4 years. It is inevitable that uni fees will rise. It is futile for us to stand against it, because simply we can't. What we should focus on now is how much university fees will rise by, whether there will still be a cap or not, whether we're going to turn it to a free market where universities can charge as much as they like.
Thank you. Do we have somebody who'd like to contribute from the east of England? I think the young woman at the back is about to explode. We wish...
Thank you, Speaker, and to my fellow NYPs. My name is Naveen, and currently I'm a student at Manchester University studying PPE. I am very proud of what I'm doing right now. But when I heard about tuition fees going up, when I went to my uni the next day, outroar was going on. It was shocking.